And I seen the vision of my 2 boys flash before my eyes. And I stopped and I cried. And I went home and I told my family, I told the banks, I told lots of my friends. And you know what was amazing? Because I talked.
Yeah.
They had my back.
Welcome to Ireland Unfiltered. This week's guest is Pat Falvey. Pat is a remarkable man with an incredible story. We talked about a lot of things that happened in his life, but then we talked mainly, it turned out, about life itself and how you survive it. And survival is the sort of the central core of Pat's story, and it was really fascinating listening to him. Before we go to the interview, don't forget to subscribe to Ireland Unfiltered on all the usual channels, and if you like the show, please leave a review. Pat Falvey, welcome to Ireland Unfiltered.
Well, thank you very much.
We managed to fit you into your. You managed to fit us in, I should say, into your busy schedule. A few hours more in Ireland before. Where are you off to?
Off to the central, to war-torn Caucasus, to Mount Everest, between the Caspian and the Black Sea.
Yeah.
And then I come back after 2 weeks on an expedition on Mount Elbrus, and then back for 8 hours, and then fly to Africa, where we're doing another expedition with a group of people on Kilimanjaro.
So you don't stop?
No. People said this year I was supposed to have retired, they said. Retired from extreme adventures. That means adventures that are over 30 to 60 days. But I still do expeditions like that are, 10 to 14, maybe 8 of them a year, 10 of them a year.
Right. So when retirement to you or going easy to you is something different to what it might be to other people.
Well, the thing with it is, as long as I can keep going, and like everybody has a different Everest. My thing is, I'm still healthy enough. I'm in my 60s. I actually love it. Love being of that age. And now it's time to throttle back a small bit and actually be a mentor to those that want to do stuff. So now this year I'll be in Africa, Russia, Himalaya, Nepal and India, down in South America and in Antarctica.
Okay, great. Look, I want to ask you something here. I'm just from your book, Accidental Rebel, which is very, the story of your life, which is an incredible life. But at the beginning of one chapter, you say, I was the type of person people either loved or hated. I was confident, ruthless, and very good with ideas. I had zero mercy for those who stood in my way, and I didn't tolerate anyone or anything that interfered with my ambition.
That's true. And I think it happens with a lot of very successful people. And then maturity actually grabs you.
So you would have changed, because I'm sitting here looking at you. You've been in the office for about half an hour before we did this. And it's hard. I was thinking about that chapter and I was looking at you and chatting to you briefly and thinking it's hard to reconcile the two. So would you say you've changed dramatically?
But life is like that. I always relate this to a poem from Robert Service who talks about people that are ambitious. And remember in my youth, I was I come from a poor background. I was hungry and ruthless to make money. And, I went through all of those phases and then matured into the kind of relaxed person I am now. But there's a verse from Robert Service which goes, there's a breed of men that don't fit in, a breed that can't keep still. So they break the heart of kith and kin and they roam the world at will. They range the field and they rove the flood and they climb the mountain's crest, for theirs is the curse of the gypsy's blood, for they don't know when to rest. And that's true for a lot of people. And
that's kind of, I read that in your book as well. I was kind of thinking it sort of romanticizes the idea. There's always a danger with the artist or with somebody like that you romanticize the idea of just being difficult. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that poem, I get it, and you don't fit in, but it's also sort of, let me elevate just being a difficult person to something kind of romantic and poetic.
Yeah, well, I suppose the big thing about it, it's life is a series of events. And in that time of events, you keep changing. For instance, whereas I was that ruthless person, and who paid the biggest cost is my family, right? And if I had my time over again, I probably would change a lot of it. And that didn't change, by the way, until I was in my 50s. When my son came to me and he said, Dad, do you realize what you missed? Yeah. And sometimes, for people that are ruthless and, go out, they never wanted, but sometimes he said, Dad, you know what you missed? And I was thinking, what did I miss? And he said, parent-teacher meetings, communions, funerals of people that you knew. And he said, now that you're in your 50s and going into your 60s, you're going to become a grandfather. And also your mum and dad are still alive. My siblings are still alive. They all still had my back. And I thought of the inverse of that, which is very prolific. It says, he has failed, he has failed, he has missed his chance, he has only done things by half. Now life's been a jolly good joke on him, and now it's time to laugh. Ha! He is one of the legions lost. He was never meant to win. He's a rolling stone and bred in the bone of the man that didn't fit in. So the person you're seeing today is someone that made a conscious choice in his 50s to change and actually to try to get back what he missed for being so successful. You know, people say to me, how have you been so successful? It's all to do with attributes. But some of the attributes I didn't even like myself by the time I came into my 50s.
Like what?
Well, the ruthlessness part. The part about not really caring about people.
Yeah.
One year I remember I fired 200 people.
That's right.
In my earlier years.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Anything at all. You get my nerves like you're gone. You could say like I was like a Donald Trump or indeed a Boris Johnson. Like, you know, it's like, and what's it all for? At the end of the day, we're only on this planet for a certain amount of years and then we're gone.
And so when you say about, in your book, you talk about making amends for that, like how would, you know, mainly to your family, but like, do you feel, like, how do you go about that?
Well, first and foremost, it's about giving time.
Yeah.
Like I traveled the world for 30 years, for 7 months every year, without ever really touching the ground. You can even see still, like, you know, I'm, you know, heading for Russia tomorrow, fitting this in between, back for 8 hours, heading for Africa, back, you know, trying to finish a play I'm doing, and then off to the Himalaya. And then before December, I probably will end up down in South America. But in between, I was keeping myself very busy. But now I would try to give time to my parents, to my siblings, because now they're coming into their 50s and 60s too. And we're at the end, like, rather than the start of our lives. So I'm becoming more mature, and I've learned that from mentors, my Buddhist mentors, right? Buddhism is my philosophy, even though I'm a Catholic. And I learned about trying to be the best that I can be, you know, from them. There was one time I was going to become a dropped-out hippie in Dubar Square after I tried to take my own life in my 30s, except that the Buddhist monk said, like, you know, that's a waste of talent, Pat. I was a complete capitalist when I went broke, and by the time I came back from Nepal, I became a social capitalist.
Right. And what would you just define the difference as?
Well, a social capitalist is a person that cares. Like, what they said to me, I suppose I have to relate it in what they said. They said everybody has a talent, and the talent should be to use that talent to the utmost, even if it is to make money. But you can help people if you make money. So a certain percentage of my income for a long, long time went to educating kids, you know, in third world countries, because it's only through education that people can lift themselves, you know, from that. One very good story was there was a young fella, Nima, in Nepal from Karikola. We did a schools project there, and a group of us actually sponsored him. It was only $600 a year. He went to school in Kathmandu. Then one of our partners mentored him into Boston University, and he went through college, he became a banker, and he was getting $80,000 a year. But you know what he did? He sent $40,000 back to the village. The power of one. That was 40 children now being educated from Karikola and the high Khumbu region.
Yeah. Talk to me about when your son said that to you, though, how it made you feel, and also maybe how you felt, or were you aware, like when you say there were aspects of your personality that you didn't like even when they were happening, like the ruthlessness, but were you aware of things like missing the parent-teacher meeting, missing the matches, and how did you feel about that at the time?
Well, I was selfish, as I said, and like lots of times, like people are selfish. I chose, you know, within my own mindset to ignore it.
Right.
And that's what happens to people. Like they don't, it's not that they don't see it. It's not that they don't feel it. It's the fact that they ignore it. And they're always justifying the fact that what they're doing is to the better of the greater cause. And look, what I say to a lot of people, I say, like I do lectures all around the world and presentations. I say to people, look, you know, when you hear my story, it sounds very successful.
Yeah.
But please, you know, think about the fact of the cost to yourself and to your family when you're doing it. Once it happens, there's nothing you can do. You have to move on. But lots and lots of people, they make big mistakes in their early life that they can't actually bring back. And I happen, within the people that don't fit in, happen to have grasped it in time enough that before I die, that I will make some amends. Now, am I making enough amends? I don't know. Will my family be happy with the way I'm now working it out?
Yeah.
We still have our arguments about the fact of, it's very hard to get forgiveness for the damage you did of the past. But at this stage, I'm doing my best.
But we have to be able to believe in it too, isn't it? It's important, especially these days where there seems to be an awful lot where you can't be, you're sort of seen as if you're on one path and you can't ever change. But it is important to recognise that things can change.
The importance is the challenge of change, right? It's, it is a challenge. And most people can do it. Most people don't like change. But, say in my own career, I have probably about 7 different careers.
Yeah.
And each time, it's a massive change. And I think to the day I die, I will still have ideas, I'll still be changing, and I'll still be challenging myself, in relation to, am I doing good enough?
Yeah.
For me, it's about being the best that you can be within the life that we have on planet Earth.
Yeah. Take me back then to, you said to me earlier, you told me a line your father used to say to you about the fists. This is, what did he say?
I said 6 months if I hit you with this, sudden death with that.
Yeah.
And if it's the case you don't get out of my way, it's heads off, right? In other words, you're dead if you get in my way. And I suppose we came from a poor background. I lived in a council estate with 5,000.
In the north side of Cork.
On the north side of Cork City. I'm very, very proud of it. And, from the start, my whole career was all hinged around the fact of working, try to create money so that we wouldn't be poor. And, it was, I suppose it came from my grandmother, whose husband left her with 6 kids into World War II and left her actually rear those kids. And
you were sent to live with your grandmother?
Yeah, she's an amazing woman, Mary B. O'Callaghan, 4'11", as round as she was tall. So I used to call her my barrel of Guinness when I rolled her around. She started me in my first business, which, believe it or not, I had a collaboration from the time I was 6. She bought me a pram. Okay. She sold second-hand clothes in the Coal Cane Cork and in Macroom and Youghal and places like that in the marts. So she sent me up and down the steps of the hilly side of Cork City, knocking on the door saying, any old clothes. So you might have a shirt you just wore and you give it to me and I put it in the pram and I bring it down to what is like a Moore Street in Cork. It was the Coal Quay, which was the markets for the poorer people. And she'd sell her wares there. But what she did is she taught me about collaboration. She gave me a percentage of what she sold to the stock I collected for nothing. And by the time, in 1969, by the time I was 12? I had £750 in the bank.
Right.
Now, I never knew what money meant, but she kept on giving me the money, taking it from me and putting it in the bank. So I probably was the richest kid on the north side of Cork City. And
you said you quoted the Robert Service poem about not fitting in, and you say in the book about feeling like an outsider. Like, where did that come from? I wonder if even, why were you sent to live with your grandmother?
I was sent to live with my grandmother because all her children were reared and they all had left. And it was like in the older days that, the eldest grandchild was sent to look after the grandmother. And so I was sent there to mind my grandmother. Right. But my grandmother being my grandmother, put to work straight away.
But did you ever wonder why you weren't living with your parents?
Yeah, because of the fact I was to mind my grandmother.
Yeah.
And, my siblings, I never really got to know my siblings until I went home when I was 13. I was the eldest brother that was always missing.
Yeah.
And even though we were only, say, about a quarter of a mile away from each other, and I used to go up every day, I never had that intersocial connectivity until I got older with my siblings.
Okay. And do you think that was something that was a pattern then throughout your life, or in your early life anyway, that you were kind of single-minded and ploughed a lone furrow?
Yeah, and I think there was a couple of things like within the reason why I called the book Accidental Rebel. I think first and foremost, I was born into a place that my father built one private, like there was 3 private houses among 5,000 council houses. And it meant like that's where I came from. So therefore I was picked upon from an early age.
Right.
Seeing that we were in a different status. But he built that house because my mother would not leave the council estate and to be too far from her mother. Then when I went to live with my grandmother, people seen me as this poor child.
Okay.
Right? So when I come up with the idea, like my grandmother always said I was as powerful as JFK, Sacred Heart, the Pope, and Eamon de Valera.
Okay.
And I believed her at 12. She gave me a strong combination. So I always believed that I was, super intelligent, even though I couldn't read or write.
Yeah.
And so she gave me that confidence. And that confidence you spoke about a while ago, she beat into me. If you think you can, you will. And if you think you can't, you won't. So I believed from a very early age, I left school not to become a brickie, even though that was my trade. I left school to become a millionaire. Right. Because my father's business had gone broke and I swore that we would never be poor again. Now, that was a mistake, by the way.
Why?
Well, it was a mistake because I then, in turn, actually created the same mistakes myself. Yeah. And I went broke.
Yeah.
And I that was the period of time. But by that stage, I was 29. I was a multimillionaire at 22. But I was broke at 29 without being able to, my literacy wasn't great.
Yeah.
But I had this phenomenal sales ability. Yeah. This phenomenal drive, self-belief.
So you
passion.
think you were in a kind of, because, listening to you and reading your book, it does seem that you were given and from your grandmother, you got this sense of self-belief, which was probably jarring to the kind of the Irish way of doing things, the old-fashioned way of doing things. Like we had a young spoken word artist on this show a while back, Natalia O'Flaherty, and she talked about how much she loves this Irish concept of notions. You shouldn't have notions. And she says, I love having notions. Yeah, it's great. It's great to have notions. It's great to have something more, ideas of more, of more and ambition. And yet notions has become the new way we use of putting people down. Don't get notions. Stay in your box. You had ambition and it was bred into you from your grandmother. And that must have made you feel like an outsider too.
Yeah, and it pissed people off. Like serious, to say a young fella coming up, like this is what I was told. That's the reason why I say accidental rebel, because I didn't mean to piss people off.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I still believed I was going to be a millionaire. I still believed, in everything. I'm going to climb Mount Everest. I'm going to walk to the South Pole. And everyone still would come along and say, "Who do you think you are?" You're a bricklayer, or you come from a council estate. Yeah. And I, as much as say, "Up your backside." Yeah. And this is where the rebel. You see, when you talk about notions and the people that have notions, we have to be very careful whether we have those notions to become obnoxious, or whether we have it in a self-belief that we can do good. Yeah. To me, I believe that most people in life wants to be rebels. I remember one time being interviewed by Pat Kenny and he said, people must think you're mad. And I said, well, some people think I'm mad and some people think I'm sane. I even went to get the injection and the blood test to test it. And he said, what did they find out? I said, there was good news and bad news. The bad news was that without a shadow of a doubt, I'm mad, off the wall, crazy. And I said, what's the good news? He said, now that we live in a mad world, suddenly all the mad people are sane. And if you look at it today, most people want to be rebels. Most people want to be mad. Nobody wants to live, completely in a sane world, because, by the time you get to the end of your life, and this is what I believe, like with the people that I mentor and coach and, do stuff with, is you can make a lot more out of life than, and it's not saying just staying at home and doing nothing isn't the right thing. If it's right for that person and they're the best that they can be, that's okay. But other people are trapped. They're trapped in that box. They can't step outside it. My whole thing is to get people to step right outside the box and do because they've only one life, do what they want to do. Right. But now, in my maturity, to be conscious of the consequences.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I think, like most people, feel like they don't fit in. I've never met anybody who said, oh, I felt, maybe they're out there. I've never met them who said, I felt at ease with the world from the get-go. You know, I'd never met those people. So everyone doesn't fit in some way, and it's how we actually become kind of good, serviceable human beings and productive human beings with those feelings of being ill at ease, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, and I think, as you say, most people want to fit outside the box, but they actually fit in a box, right? That's the problem. That's where the frustration comes. That people feel they have to fit in the box.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's Everest is different. My thing was to, I had crazy ideas. People thought I had crazy ideas, and I just did them. And I did them because I said I would do them.
Right.
Most people don't. Most people, my father gave me a book with a verse in it once when I was very young, and it was from Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah.
And as we look out there and we talk to people, every single one is the same. They're all dreamers. But in the book, it was very good. It says, we all dream in the dusty recesses of our mind, but most wake in the morning to find it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day may enact their dreams with open eyes and make them a reality. Most people are procrastinators.
Yeah.
And that's what drives them mad.
Yeah.
Because they know when they say something, they want to do it. And I'm saying, if you have a life, you have only one, don't become a procrastinator.
But aren't most people also torn between, I'm speaking from personal experience, we all juggle what we want to do. We may want to do something to a certain degree, but we know we also have to do something else, or we've got to pay a mortgage, or we've got to pay the rent and all these things. So there's very few instances in life where it's just a black and white decision where you say, this is exactly what I want to do, and to hell with the consequences. There's usually a degree and a spectrum that you've got to kind of manage in some way.
There is, of course, and that comes down to choice. Right? Everybody has a choice. Yeah. And the problem with most people, when they make the choices, they're unhappy, right? I'm saying if you make a choice, no matter what it is, to have that balance, including, whether it's a balance now. I think I've matured, right, to the fact that every choice I make has a consequence.
Yeah.
Right now, my thing now, is to how to balance that.
Yeah.
So everybody has to try to balance it in one way or another. But when they do balance it, it's to be happy.
So you think you can tell people how to be happy? You think
no.
No.
The only one that can make you happy is yourself. Yeah. But the thing with it is, I suppose I came to a belief, and, I learned a lot of stuff. You are the average of the 5 people you hang around with. Right? So I try to choose to hang around with people that are upbeat and positive than people that are negative.
Yeah.
Now, it's not saying I won't help people that are negative, because that's my job. But the thing with it is, for me to make choices, I hang around with people that makes decisions. What happens with most people, they can't make a decision. As you said, they're torn between, A and B, A and B, A and B. Then they make a decision about A and they're unhappy about B.
Or else they just have to negotiate it, because we don't know. We have to do one thing, and there's always the prospect of what we could have done. It's not even that you're not making a decision. It's just that you're negotiating between two kind of grey areas, if you like.
And each decision you will make will have a consequence. So I think that's... that's for me, I find it, I suppose through my grandmother, the fact that if I'm given a choice, I have to make a decision. And then when I make the decision, I follow through with it, and I take the consequences with it.
Right.
Most people don't want to take the consequences for their decision, whether it's in politics, whether it's in business, whether it's in leadership.
And did you feel that when you were at when you were 22 and a millionaire, and when you were just going for it, did you feel you took the consequences for your decisions, or did you leave somebody else to pick up the pieces?
Well, I suppose I left someone else to pick up the pieces, my wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was really shitty out of me to do that, but I didn't actually know it at the time. Marie, reared 2 amazing kids.
Yeah.
And you don't actually realize this until later in life. That when, after all the decisions and the choices and things like that, and, people say to me, how is it that I have changed? And I say, look, and you can see I'm bald, but in actual fact behind that bald, there's hair. And in that hair, it's grey. And it's because of grey hair It's because of the maturity and the learning of life. And it's because I want to learn.
Yeah.
You know, and am I a different person? Are you a different person to when you were 17? We all are. You know, when you have children, will you be different? You will be, of course, because of the fact, you know, they'll react against you if it's a case, you know, you make decisions that doesn't suit them, I'm afraid.
Yeah, yeah. But I wonder if we do change, but we also mainly change, I feel, in how we respond to our own instincts, which don't really change. So it's that little bit of distance between what I want to do and what I have to do.
Well, you do change, and your instincts change.
Right. Do your instincts change? You believe that?
Yeah, like I believe, you know, like for me, I would be a lot more thoughtful now in how I would make a decision.
Right.
You know, and my instinct towards making that decision would be different.
Yeah.
Now, what hasn't changed about me is my passion.
Yeah.
I can't do something unless I have passion and belief and want. You know, one of the greatest reason to do something is because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Most people like things, most people want things, but most people won't take action to get what they want.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I believe like everything is changing all of the time.
Would you say that's the definition of maturity, though? Because, like, you know, when you talk about, you know, people do things, they want to do them, like, if your life is governed by doing what you want to do, you're going to make other people unhappy.
Accidental rebel.
Yeah.
I'm a rebel. That's a fact. If it's a case you're going to do things, like there's going to be things that you will regret. If you're a rebel, if you try to conform to everybody, right, you're probably still going to be unhappy.
Yeah.
And I think Marie said it to me years ago. She said, if you didn't do what you did, you wouldn't be happy. Right?
Yeah.
So the question is, there's so many people trapped in the fact they're not doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
And it becomes frustrating. And remembering the fact, the one thing I can say, and I'm very lucky in this regard, that I've had time to, you know, be the person to fit in from not fitting in.
Right.
And, you know, and still, most people say that I still don't fit in. I'm still a rebel. I'm still a maverick. And, you know, I still do the things I want to do.
And you think you still rub people up the wrong way at times?
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, you know, every time.
Are you
like,
aware of it now more? Would you notice it more, do you think?
Yeah, I am aware of it. But like, sometimes I don't give a crap
Right.
about what they think. You know, to me, if you have to consider all the time what other people think of you, like, do you know what I know about myself? I'm a good person, right? I love my family. I try to be, through my Buddhist philosophy, as best I can. But am I going to piss people off? Of course I am.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'll be going through my whole life. Accidental rebel means exactly what it means, right? It means accidentally I piss off people.
Right.
Right? But I'm not going to stop being a rebel.
Yeah. So talk me through then, like, your 20s and making money, and then how it went, like the crash and, you know, losing all that and what it did to you emotionally and mentally.
Well, first and foremost, I left school because I was pissed off at my dad because of the fact he had went bankrupt because the developer caught him for a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I thought I could solve everybody's ills. So, you know, things went very well. I got a great mentor in a guy called Owen O'Callaghan, who gave me a break. And by the time I was 22, I had the big 5,000 square foot Georgian house. I had the Mercedes. I had everything.
Yeah.
I had 200 people working for me. And then I thought I had the Midas touch. Here I was, Midas.
And were you driven too by that sense? Because you say it in your book, like, you couldn't read or write, and like you felt that the established kind of merchant class in Cork, which is a very established class, kind of, you know, appreciated your talents but never really kind of embraced you.
Yeah, well, I except a couple of mentors, the likes of Barry O'Driscoll, a solicitor, Joe Carey, Frank Sheehan, that came back from the States in real estate, Owen O'Callaghan, my dad, my mom, my grandmother. Like, even though, like, for a lot of people I was stupid, to them they believed. And it's in that belief that they had my back and I continued on.
But how did other people think you were stupid? Why would they think that?
Well, this is where, when you come from a society, you say, like, it's like, who does he think he is? He's going to take a fall, right? You know, he's going to go broke. He's overtrading, or which they were right. And then what I learned is, if you don't do what you want to do, a stop clock is right twice a day. So if you do what all the other people think and not do anything, right? And if they say like, oh, he's going to go broke, he's going to make a big cock up of that, right? They're going to be right at some stage, like the stop clock is right twice a day. I wanted to keep going the other 24 hours. And like, lo and behold, it was right. They were right. I did go broke. I was too obnoxious. But that was a learning process, not a failure. And I took those failures, and as I matured, I started to do it. So by the time I was 29, that obnoxious asshole or whatever, right, made loads of mistakes. I overtraded. I borrowed too much. The mortgage rate at the time was 18%. You know, Marie personally guaranteed our house. The banks came after us, like it is today.
Yeah.
And basically, like everybody. And I often say out there, right, put up your hands for any of those that have went through life that hasn't been depressed.
Yeah.
Right? There's very few people. Whether it's a dog dies, a mother dies, you know, you went broke, your self-esteem. So they started treating me with Prozac.
Right.
Except it was, you know, the wrong thing to do. What was wrong is that my self-esteem was gone.
Yeah.
And whereas with my self-esteem gone, I tried to take my own life. And it's then like when things really got crappy for me.
Yeah.
And then it's only by actually trying, like, you know, and I said to people, don't do it. Because what the story you're hearing now wouldn't be told if I had done it. And I seen the vision of my two boys flash before my eyes. And I stopped and I cried. And I went home and I told my family, I told the banks, I told lots of my friends. And you know what was amazing? Because I talked, they had my back. And I talked to a lot of people in that state. And just remember, talk, because lots of people will have your back. And by having my back, that's when I actually took my first step into a world that has consumed me since then, which is the world of adventure. One guy came in and I actually said, like, would I go for a hill walk?
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned about, you know, taking yourself out of the stress.
But before we get into that, tell me about that sense you had before that you had these burdens and you didn't want to tell anybody.
Yeah, I think like...
You kept it all in and you thought you could solve it all yourself.
Yeah, like
which
most
was probably the flip side of being the driven person in the first place. Why should I ask for help? I've done this. I've achieved this myself. I don't need anyone's help. Yeah.
Shame.
Right.
Shame the fact I left my father down, my mother down, my grandmother down, my family down.
Yeah.
Left myself down.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to the fact, whereas there was lots of people advising me to do something different, and I didn't listen.
Right.
Listening is a very important element too of living life. Now, the thing with it is, you know, you have to have a balance on that, because if you listen to everybody, you do nothing.
Who do you decide who to listen to?
Yeah. So like, you have to be very choosy about who you decide to listen to. So in reality, I should have taken advice, you know, from, like, I had an accountant at the time, like, which advised me I was overtrading. Now, overtrading meant nothing to a bricklayer that couldn't read or write properly. It was just, I was expanding, like, just expand.
You wrote 300 sites, did you?
600
600 sites.
Yeah. Like 600 individual sites now, like, you know, in the States.
Yeah.
So like, it was quite a lot of sites to have at any given time, like in your stock. And it was like, so I was still buying at the height of a recession, of a down close of a recession, where mortgage rates was up at 18%, and I had money borrowed at 2% above the die bar, which is at 36.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. And like, when it went wrong, I had no coping mechanisms whatsoever. I felt, because I put myself out in a limb saying and not taking advice, that I was alone. But in the end of the day, you know, I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
People loved me and people had my back. And that was one of the main things I learned from being depressed. Talk. There are people there that will have your back. You know, and, you know, a lot of the time, and that's where I found out the difference between clinical depression and self-esteem depression. Do you know what I mean? That sometimes, and nowadays, everybody is being treated for the same thing. They're being given a pill instead of maybe giving themselves a challenge.
Right. Yeah, I suppose that's true, I guess, as well. Like, we're not, people are given pills by qualified doctors, so like we can't sit here and say that it's something that we can't, medicate people or say they shouldn't be medicated, because sometimes that is the thing that doctors feel is necessary.
I speak quite a lot on that, right? Difference between, look, I can't tell if a person is clinically depressed or self-esteem depressed, but also what happens with most doctors, they're so busy, they don't even take the time to find out which it is. So the best thing to do is give them medication.
Yeah. Your own story then, like at that point you say somebody came to you, and this was when the world of adventure, and you went on your first hill walk then, and how quickly did you decide that this, like that sense you get from it in the book of suddenly this release?
Yeah.
And you weren't thinking about your problems?
Yeah, I think that the first release came as that when I went to Kerry, and I seen the Welcome to Kerry sign, and I heard these people that I really didn't know sitting in the car. I was sitting in a mini car like with 3 other people, and they're going, "Oh, look at the beautiful like hills and the colours." And I said, "What the effing hell are they talking about?" Right? But I went there because of the fact Valdine asked me to go. He's one of the fathers of one of my secretaries. And then we got down the end of the hill, and they said, "Let's go for a walk up Mangerton Mountains, only 2,500 feet." And I said, "What?" And then I went for a walk. And I was nearly dead by the time I got to the summit. And all these older people were moving away. But when I sat down for lunch, it was the first time ever, because I was so tired, that I could see the lakes of Killarney, the water running over the rocks, the colour of the streams, and I got to the top. And then on the way down, I was so excited, even though the banks were taking us to Court the following week. I asked Val, "What are you doing next week?" And he said, "Carntool." I now live beneath Carntool. This is my spiritual kind of home that I would bring in Ireland people to every week when I'm around. And I was so excited the following week when I got to the top. I was out of it.
Right.
And I just put my hand over. If you put your hand out here a second, right? And I was on the top, and I shook his hand.
Yeah.
And he said, "What's wrong, Pat?" And I said, "Val, I'm going to climb Mount Everest." And it was that simple.
Yeah.
It was like I didn't even know what Everest was, other than the fact it was the highest mountain in the world. And I felt so excited that I felt I could do this. So what it did is it gave me the self-confidence, and it started rebuilding my self-confidence, actually, that I could do something yet once again, even though it cost no money. And that brought me on a journey that brought me all around the world, to the highest, to the coldest, to the most remote places on planet Earth. And, from that time, I've done about 155 expeditions. I've traveled to lots of countries. I've had the opportunity to work with over 32 tribes of people. I've got an understanding, of a lot of the different religious beliefs, from fundamentalism down to, Buddhism, and so what it's done from this guy that lived with his grandmother and his parents in Baker's Road in the north side of Cork City, it expanded my mind to the world. And I'm still fascinated at that, because I am a bricklayer. I'm a person that came from the north side of Cork City, and I was given the opportunity, because I took it, to travel all around the world. And it still blows my mind. I still can't believe that I had this opportunity.
And what was that doing to you as well? Because when you say you go to all these places, it's incredible, what you've done and like, where you've climbed and all the adventures you've had. But you also have this sense of, bringing yourself with you wherever you go. You can't outclimb yourself. You can't outrun yourself. So, like, how did you find yourself changing and your perspective on life changing as you went to those places and you did those climbs?
I think the most profound effect that I had on me was in Nepal. Like, that is my kind of epicenter, spiritual, religious place that I would go to. I go there now at least once a year, for a month. And it's given me an insight into the fact that life is to be enjoyed and life is to be respected. And every single person, whether you're a Muslim, a Hindu, you know, any of the different religions, we are just all people.
Yeah.
There is no religion over and above the fact that we are human beings, whether we're black, white, you know, Indian, Chinese, anything. And like, you know, I'm just so amazed because when I was brought up, there was no black people in Cork. I think we had 3 or 4 black people. Like, and I look, and I thought they were different. My grandmother taught me at the time because she thought Russians, you know, were devils, you know, like during the Cold War, like, you know. And when I went to Russia initially, I was expecting to have like these guys, like, you know, in Russia, like coming out with horns because they were the devil themselves, like. And so I've got a great, you know, learning from travel.
Yeah.
And I think everybody that can travel should travel. Now, not everybody may be able to afford to travel, but like we can even see it now, like within Ireland, like, you know, all the different cultures coming together.
Yeah.
And even if we don't travel, like we're getting a broader aspect that we're all human beings.
Yeah. Well, it's making Ireland a better place.
It is, yeah.
And tell me about Buddhism then and how that grew within you.
Well, Buddhism is my philosophy. It's like, you know, as you know, like lots of people are trying to turn it into a religion. It's not, it's a philosophy. And I just believe in the Buddhist philosophy of the fact, live the best life that you can, be the best that you can be, try not to hurt anybody. And that all the time doesn't work, as you can see in The Accidental Rebel. And it's given me food for thought.
Yeah.
Right? It's actually made me go into myself. It's made me look at myself. It's made me want peace. You know, within my own soul. And I think, you know, someone asked me that one time, they said, where are you on the Buddhist scale? And I said, well, it's like this, I'm nearly in nirvana.
Right, are you, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am 62 years of age, and I didn't say I was in nirvana.
Okay, nearly.
I'm nearly in nirvana. There's a couple of issues that I have to sort out. But yes, I'm nearly in nirvana.
Right.
I happen to be lucky enough that at my age, I can do most things I want to do. I am a very gregarious, gallerous, outgoing person. I love people.
Yeah.
And I love all types of people. And I learn from them. Like, and I've known like fundamentalist Muslims that would have done a lot of bad things. And yet behind that is human beings.
Yeah.
You know, so I believe in the spirit of the human person.
How was it the first time because like you talk again about the risk you take every time you climb, like how tough was it the first time you had to deal with like death on a mountain?
It was very tough. You know, but I suppose I have to qualify that because to learn the skills that I learned, I joined Mountain Rescue because I wanted to be a self, you know, independent person that could look after myself on the mountains. So I actually identified with death, with risk. And like anyone that talks about adventure and don't think of death, like, you know, like adventure is what we call a risk-taking sport that has a certain amount of danger.
Huge amount of danger from someone on the big summits.
Well, the death zone is one, like, you know. Anyone that goes into the death zone and don't think that they're going to die is a fool. Right? It's a simple fact about us. How do you not die? Right? So once you identify you can die, you then go around the training why you shouldn't die. Now what's happening nowadays, of course, like, is that too many people like are not learning the skills.
Right.
And a lot of the people, like whether they're skilled or not skilled, will die. Like, but there's a lot more people that haven't got the skills. And like when someone comes along and says to me, experienced, and they've done 2 climbs before they die, and I hear it on the news, like quoted, experienced.
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, like, let's qualify that. And then I think when I started climbing first, I had to tell my family 1 in 4 would die on Everest.
Yeah.
And they said, you're going to die. So they knew. And I said, no, I'm not going to die because I believed I wouldn't die. So I learned everything about where the 3 people lived or the 1 person died. So it's all about the planning, about putting the stuff together. You know, and getting it into your mindset, right? Okay, that I'm not going to put off the fact that 1 in 4 will die, right? Because I want to do it. I'm going to learn how the tree lived, and it can still be that I die.
Yeah.
But I accept the consequences. You make a decision, you accept the consequence, and you do everything for the negative of it not to occur. And lucky enough, 50 climbers I've climbed with are dead. I'm lucky enough, that over 50 people I know and have climbed with over the years and friends have given their lives back to their adventure, whether it's climbing Everest, K2, on different mountains around the world, mainly on mountains, really. Now, that's outside the standard people that will die of accidents. But over 50 adventurers I know are dead.
Yeah. And does it strike you when you're in the death zone, or when you're, these moments of mortal kind of danger, like you're doing it because you want to do it? Do you ever think I don't have to be here?
Of course. I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. I'm there because I want to do it. And I've given everything up to be able to take that chance. And it's because I can do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
People say, why do you do it? Is it because it's there? It's not. Like, as Mallory once said, why did you climb Everest? It's because it's there. To me, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the whole thought of the fact of going into a place. This is not Mount Everest, by the way. It's Chomolungma. Chomolungma means goddess mother of the earth, which one time came from the bottom of the seabed and was pushed with great tectonic forces to the top of the world, the highest place you get the nearest to the heavens. There is fossils of sea creatures encrusted onto the rocks as you walk across there. Every morsel of my being vibrated as I crossed that highest gangplank on planet Earth in the death zone. And then you stand there on a patch of ground the size of a kitchen table and you say, yes, I've done it.
What do you feel then when you see the pictures of the queues of people going up Everest? I
understand.
But does it diminish it in a way? It become when you the people you admire, like Shackleton, Tom Crean, these people, there was something about heading off into the unknown too. And is that sort of diminished a bit when you see the picture of a queue trying to get up?
It does in a way, and it doesn't in a way.
Okay.
First and foremost, who am I to say that you cannot climb Carntool, Mont Blanc, Kilimanjaro, or anything else, right? Because I, at one stage, climbed it when there was only 15 people on the summit. Who am I? Am I God? Am I to restrict you from your dreams? The problem we have is, in getting into people's minds that they should be more careful, right? Okay, governments, there should be restrictions in relation to experience. But the whole thing with us, where we are in the world today? Every single person. When I was born, there was 2.5 billion people. There's 7.6 billion now, and you're one of them, right? And in that world, people have got more challenge-based, marathons, Ironmen, everything. Now everybody's focus in the world is on one spot, right, which was only the size of a kitchen table 5.5 miles high in the sky, which is Mount Everest. Yeah. And they just feel they're fit enough, and they're going to go, and they're going to get guides like me, which I've never done, pay a huge amount of money to get them to the top. And you know what's happening? Is there's too many people and not enough good guides. And then they're trying to cut the cost. I had a case recently. I said to someone, look, you don't have a lot of experience. Will you come down and I will do ladder crossings and fixed rope techniques with you, right? And you know what they said? We don't have time.
Why not?
Because of the fact they don't have time. They just feel they're fit enough. And when they go
and are they going that, they're going a trajectory from doing Ironmans and things like that and thinking, right, next stop Everest.
Let's go to Everest. Let's actually have this as a tick list. For me, Everest has nothing to do with the challenge. Everest is the essence of coming from the bottom of the seabed, and it grows up. Antarctica, we go to a spot in Antarctica, which there's a point in the world where all the meridians of time go through. And when I walk around it, I'm a time traveler. And I've had the privilege to stand at the North Pole and the South Pole, and I've had the privilege of standing on top of Mount Everest as I surveyed out over the world, in a place that came from the bottom of the seabeds. That's what I feel. It's not a tick list. Yeah. It's an emotion for me. And I happen to be very lucky that I did it in the earlier years, just as it was about to take off with commercialization.
Right.
But I was actually self-sufficient in everything. I could have climbed it myself.
What do you think that's about, that you talk about it there, people testing themselves? What is that about the world today, that there is this element in human psychology where people are doing more, triathlons, extreme triathlons. They want to do that. What is that about to you?
Well, I think it's a lot of people have been trapped in the workforce, right? And as they become more successful, like say, there's always what's next.
Yeah.
What's next? Like I say it myself, what's next for me? I look at you. And I bet you 10 to 1 if I said, what's next? You actually have something, what's next? I don't know what it is, but everybody has a what's next. So those that are into challenge will always have a what's next and what's happening with the what's next, because they're driven people. They're like the people that don't fit in, maybe.
Yeah.
Like the Robert Service poem.
But I think that the secret, and I completely, spend my time thinking what's next, and yet I think the secret is to try and forget about what's next completely.
Yeah, maybe so. For me, like my what's next is very important. And I'll give you an instance, right? So people say to me, you've done all these expeditions, you've been at the top of the world, bottom of the world, you've been like all around the world. And do you know what my what's next is? To become the best grandfather that I can be.
But you'll be doing that, you might be thinking, what's next? Because I find when I'm with my son, I'll often be thinking, let's go and do something else now. And you'll do something else, and then you're like, well, actually, we don't need to do anything.
No, you don't.
Know what I mean?
That's another thing. That's where peace comes in, right? But the thing with it is what's happening is that thing could be what's next, do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? That is a what's next. Yeah. Like if you're saying like, I'm always what's next. When you think of what's next, you're thinking of some challenge, or you're thinking about something, and yes, this is where the Buddhist philosophy comes in, right? Like for me, I had to walk to the South Pole to get the peace in my inner soul, right? Okay, that meditation. But it's possible to do it, look, just standing here.
Yeah.
And you know what will happen in 10 more seconds? People will turn off.
Yeah.
People don't know how to. Even you're getting uncomfortable now.
I'm fine.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, people do get uncomfortable. Yeah. They can't be with themselves. They cannot actually look at television for more than 15 seconds without flicking over the channels if there's silence.
And how does wanting to keep, so when you talk to, when you give talks, corporate talks, and you talk about these things, what's the most important message, or you can pass on from your life of climbing to businesses and business people?
Well, I think, what can I pass on from my life? What can I pass on from my business? And what can I pass on from what I've learned? Right?
Yeah.
And that's to be at peace with yourself, right? And to always actually strive to be at peace with yourself, because you and you alone know when you're at peace.
Yeah.
And most people, actually, it's an amazing thing. I was doing a conference on leadership recently. 80% of the people in America hate what they're doing.
Right.
And then I found 80% of the people in Ireland hate what they're doing. And then I found out 92% of Japanese hate what they're doing. Isn't that a terrible indictment to the fact that people are actually living not liking what they're doing, when in actual fact it's a choice that they can like? And they can make decisions. Most people won't get out of what they're doing because they say we can't afford it, but it is a decision. So if you're in that state, try to find out what you do like about what you're doing, because work and doing what you're doing is all your life.
But is there like again, like all these things, like one of the things that struck me about reading your book, and you mentioned it a couple of times in different interviews, and I think it almost is the most important message in some ways, is the Shackleton line you quote about better to be a live donkey than a dead lion.
Great line.
And it's about survival, really,
survival,
isn't it?
Yeah. And like I come along in the morning and say, I've been a bricklayer, I've been a builder, I've been a developer, I've set up a finance house with no money when I was broke, I've been a photographer, a climber, and things like that. But you know what the end thing down at the end of my list? I'm a survivor. And that's all we can expect to be. We will have ups and downs like on the mountain. We will have highs and lows. And what I've learned about mountaineering, getting to the summit is not always guaranteed.
Yeah.
But you can always actually start again. And that's the most important thing, is starting. And, you know, one of the greatest questions I'm asked is, how do I succeed in getting what I want? The first thing is you got to want it, right? But my mother gave me a great verse when I was, after trying to take my own life.
Yeah.
And it was found in a soldier in World War II. And it's like, and this is the secret that I use with my teams of people. But like when I'm doing something very big, these qualities they have to have, right? Like whether it was Ger MacDonald, Ralph Bay, Claire O'Leary, any of the major people, right? And this is the qualities they have. If you want something bad enough, you must go out and fight for it. You must give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it. If your life seems so lonely and useless without it, but all that you do is you dream and you plan is about it. If gladly, you fret for it, but then you've got to sweat for it. But most of all, you've got to go for it. But when you go for it with all of your capacity, your strength and tenacity. If you go after the things in life that you want, though tired, gaunt and lonely, and if day after day you besiege and you beset it, do you know what will happen? You will get it. And that's the simple fact of life. If it's a case you want peace, right? And you're not peace at the moment, and if you go after with all of those qualities, you will get it. I know for me, if I want change, and whatever it is, change or what's next, I can get it provided I have all of those qualities. And that I go after with that passion and the desire, right? But it's up to you to know what you want.
But again, we come back to that point of what you what you want, but balanced with the obligations you might have, and they are also important things. You know, people might not want to be in the job they're in, but they have obligations.
But that's what I'm saying. But this like when you talk about balance, right? When I talk about balance, that's what I want.
Yeah.
So therefore, like, you know, you can't go on one side, right? Because as I said, when you make a decision, you affect that. But if you take the boat into it, you've then got to know what you want.
Yeah.
And if you want to give up all of that, well, that's okay.
See, I always think the unhappiest people in life are people who go around saying, I just want to be happy.
Well, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do something to be happy.
Yeah. But you forget about happiness in the first place. And
Well, you can't forget about happiness. You know, life is an amazing gift. It's your gift from God or from whoever that you want to think it is. It's your gift.
Yeah.
We're put here to be happy. So we should strive to be happy.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So what the bloody hell are you going to go, you know, I'm going to be miserable. Right?
But the people that's what I mean. I always encounter people who say, I just want to be happy, and they're miserable. So forget about happiness.
But you've got to
forget
do
about
something.
it. Just do things.
Do it,
do things, and you'll be happier.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about happiness.
But you see, you're relating it already. Because, you know, and I'm saying, no matter what you're doing, like I've called into workplaces where where thousands of people are unhappy.
Yeah.
Unhappy. Unhappy about what? About unhappy where they're working? Then get the bloody hell out of it. And then they say, oh, we can't because we're paid too much money. Well, then find something that you like about it that will make you happier. Happier. But if you're going to go around all the time saying and doing things and then saying you're miserable and not do anything about it, well, then so be it. Or find that you can be happy in that situation. Like, I'm afraid, like, I don't have any sympathy for people that don't do something about what they want.
Action.
You're miserable? Then if you don't want to be miserable, do something about it.
Yeah.
Or get help.
Yeah.
Get help. Get the people that have your back.
What's next then?
Well, what's next for me? I have set up what we call the Forever Young Club. It's for 50 to 90-year-olds. I set it up because I met this guy walking into the foothills of the Himalayas. He was 85 years of age. And I said, at the highest Buddhist monastery in the world at Tengbosha. And I was coming out from an expedition, and I said, can I have a cup of tea? Because one day I want to be like you. And then I went into the tea house, and I was followed in by a group, and this woman, and I said to him, He's 85. He was a coal miner with a low pension. And he was off in the Himalayas. And then this group followed in. This woman I was talking to, Jane, she was talking to me. She went away. I said to John, who's that? And he said, that's my girlfriend.
Right.
And I said, what? And I said, what age is she? And she was 79 on her next birthday. And then I said, where did you meet? And he said, I met her when she joined Glenberris Walking Club when she was 65. She's a retired school teacher. And for the next 15 years, she planned 3 months every year to go to the Himalaya, walking, not costing a lot of money, right? And I said, but one sec, 3 months every year for 15 years. And he said, yeah. And I said, but where are you now on the trip? This is going to base camp, right? And he said, well, this is the end. And I knew that was 14 days. And I said, where were you before that? And I said, well, I've just come out of Mongolia and Tibet. So it's not saying every 85-year-old can do it. Yeah. So I set up the Forever Young Club so that we can create a tribe of people. And I hope to have about 2 million people. Like this is now where the accidental rebel comes. Who the F hell does your man think he is? By the time I'm 80, part of this tribe.
Right.
Right. And it's growing very fastly at the moment. We set it up this year. And Jim Kerwin, who's the director in charge of it, like, is a phenomenal man. And it's like things like that. The thing is spend more time with family.
Yeah. Do you ever think those two are contradictory? Or
do you know what? They probably are. But you know what I'm going to do? And this is all anyone can do about the dreams, goals, or aspirations. I'm going to do my best.
How do you feel when you go to these places now? Do you, like, the planet itself is in peril now with climate change and these things, and you're going to some of the places that are suffering because of that. Do you worry about, and do you, like, what's happening to the planet, and do you think what can be done about it?
Of course I do. Of course I do. But there is very little that we can do about it as the population expands, 7.6 billion, 10 billion. The simple fact about it is we've always had global warming and climate change. It's just the speed that we're going at. We've had, an extinction before on planet Earth. It's not saying we won't have an extinction again.
Yeah.
The dinosaur age, like, will we get hit by a meteor? Will there be a nuclear explosion that will actually kill, 3 billion people in planet Earth? Like, to me, I feel there will be at some stage.
Okay.
We are on a destiny to a hiding, right? Can we, do we need to do something as an individual, each individual? The answer is yes, right? For me, I don't worry about myself. I worry about my legacy, my grandchildren, my children, their children, like my grandchildren's children. Like, this is what we want to be looking out for. And at the same time, I go to China, I go to Tibet, Nepal. How are we going to restrict, as we expand like 2.5 billion people to 7.6 billion to 15 billion people and say, and even look at this room, light. Like, what are we going to do? Give them one bulb? So, like, whereas we can actually get better, and we have to get better in relation to conservation and things like that. But, like, I honestly feel like, we are, unless we stop population growth, on a big hiding. Like, and you know what? Planet Earth has always changed. Yeah. Look, when we came out initially, like, from the water, right? Okay, if we go to Darwin's theory, and then we picked an apple, like, and we expanded. And then when we had our brains, like 600 cc's, initially when we were there, and now we have 1600 cc's. Like, I go all around the world, like, learning about the brain and our beta and beta firing neurons and things like that, and we're going to use 6% of them. We've always been evolving. Yeah. And if there's a nuclear explosion in the morning and we're all going around, like, with half a hand and half a leg, we will survive in that form, I believe. Do we want it to happen? No, we don't. We have to do our best. And again, it comes back to being the best that we can be at any given time of the existence of planet Earth. We have, 4.6 billion years in existence? We're 0.0000000.1 second. Yeah. That's your influence, by the way, and mine. Yeah. So, but we still... we'll try and end it on an upbeat note by saying we can probably, there is things that people can do. But life is great. Is it? Life is absolutely great. And it's great for most people if they allow it to be great. I'll give you a very good one. Catherine McKee, a corporate psychologist that I work with, she sent me a letter. And in the letter, we were dealing with kids at the time, like in regeneration thing. And she said, the kids of today don't half appreciate their parents as much as the people before them, and they're getting far too much. You said, yeah, it was said 2,000 years ago. So on that note, like, it is the fact that we will survive, and our thing is to survive in the best possible way that we can, enjoying the life that we've been put here on planet. That's what my Buddhist mentors have taught me. Enjoy your life. Do your best to enjoy. Like, you might be miserable, like, but, and the thing to do when something like that happens, you're the most miserable, down and out person, talk to somebody. Get help to make your life better. And try to always look on the upside of life rather than on the down. Look, there's a glass of water. I haven't got it with me, right? But if it's half full, right? It's either half empty or half full. Your choice is to decide where that line is. So see the glass as half full rather than half empty.
Pat, thanks so much for being with us, and continued success.
And thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
That was Pat Falvey, with his mascot Freddie, who sat there throughout, and I forgot to ask him what it was about. I still don't know what Freddie was there for, but he is a hugely popular figure, Pat tells me, and I'll take his word for that. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to Ireland Unfiltered, and if you like the show, please leave a review.